crossroads of the Ozarks. It's the OGs of podcasting, PID Radio. Welcome. I'm Derek Gilbert.
Sharon Gilbert, and welcome to our living room once again. We're relaxing in here. We've got a lot of work to do out in the barn later today, and we didn't want to spend all day out there with the dogs in here. One never knows what you will find when you return after the dogs have had.
Glory would say, well, they're out there rearranging. Let's do some rearranging in here.
Yeah, we could do that because we're pretty sure that Mom would like to have the stuffing from this pillow moved over to the other side of the room.
We'll just decorate with pillow sprinkles all
Yeah.
over. I saw this program.
Elevate the room.
Elevate the room. Saw this podcast that, where this former royal does this. And
with, guinea pig food.
Exactly.
Allegedly, we have to say.
Well, thank you for joining us today. Please download our app, gilberthouse.org/app or pidradio.com/app. Had somebody ask a question, and we will answer another question at the end of the program, but on the app, when you join the messaging section, get it on your phone or your tablet, at the top right corner, there's what look like little talk bubbles. Click on that, join the groups. We've got areas in there for all of our programs. Ask questions of Sharon, ask questions of me. There's an open forum, which is anything goes. Announcements.
Police yourselves.
Yes,
please
police
do
yourself.
be gracious.
Yes, I know we've got some disagreements going on in there over end times theology, eschatology.
Yeah.
We don't know. God made that deliberately vague. Go back and listen to last week's View from the Bunker with the Iron and Myth episode with Doug Van Dorn's book, Rings of Revelation. I'm not sure I agree with his timing on it, but the one thing Doug did while he was making clear that he is not, is that we all need to be gracious to one another because none of us sees what's going to happen in the end times clearly.
Absolutely is the way it needs to go, and that's why we don't police those areas.
Yeah.
You guys this is your chance to form friendships, ask for prayer from one another, rejoice at the victories the Lord brings into your lives.
Yeah.
But again, grown-ups.
Yeah. Share resources back and forth. But if you got disagreements over the timing of the rapture or whether there will even be a rapture, just remember God made that deliberately obscure for a purpose.
Yep.
Because none of us knows exactly what's going to happen. It also means the enemy doesn't know what's going to happen.
The fallen realm probably have their own apps and their own conferences. I've said that before, with their own little charts, and they haven't yet figured it out, which is, I believe, that is why through history you look back and you see over and over again what appear to be individuals that are great candidates for the man of sin, the beast, the Antichrist, whatever you want to call him. It's like the fallen realm has to have somebody ready every 50, 60 years.
Right. Somebody always warming up in the bullpen, as it were.
Trying to find the best place?
Trying to find the best place. My little microphone
I know.
here.
Well, you've got
Mine was folding over.
You've got a beard that's absorbing all your sound.
Yeah. Well, I think what was happening there is there we go. It folded downward, and so the microphone opening was like up against my chest, and that's not a good way to get good audio.
Well, you may be picking up your heartbeat at this point. I don't know. I doubt it. No, I'm only joking. I doubt that.
But anyway, the point before I started rabbit trailing down the app there was the question was, I think you interviewed such and so some point back. Can you point me to where that interview is? One of the powerful features built into the app is you can search through our app by keyword, by Bible verse, or by speaker. You can do a search for a speaker. So if you want to get every program that's got, say, Dr. Judd Burton, just type in Burton, click on that speaker, and it'll bring up all of the programs, not just from one of our, like my View from the Bunker podcast. It'll be View from the Bunker, The Bible's Greatest Mysteries, PID Radio, every program that he might have been on. And it's a great way to, because we got 20 years of archives there.
There are amazing
Frankly,
guests.
there's some people I've forgotten that we've interviewed.
Many people. Dan Marvin.
Yes,
wonderful. I mean, seriously, you need to listen to the Dan Marvin interviews. And you did some of those interviews while you were working in radio in Columbia, Missouri.
Right.
Also, Tom Horn.
Yep.
David Flynn. Mike Heiser. You could just, what am I trying to say? Guy Malone.
Guy Malone,
Yeah.
yes.
Lots of individuals, some of who are no longer with us.
And then,
so, use that.
All of the prophecy interviews that we recorded at the various prophecy conferences.
Oh, my goodness.
So some of these guests have only
Chuck
been on
Missler.
once. Yeah. It is, it is a really remarkably powerful app. So you can go in there and, again, just do a search, and you'll turn up a lot of people, and some people you may be surprised that we've interviewed over the years. Noah Hutchings, the late Noah Hutchings from Southwest Radio Church.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's
lots of
a powerful little tool. GilbertHouse.org/app or PIDradio.com/app.
And by the way, shout out to Subsplash. It's the Christian company that created the app, they maintain the app, and they store all of our content.
Yes.
So if we ever disappear from certain platforms, then understand the app will always be there.
Right. And we've got the archives linked at gilberthouse.org. If you go to, and I'm going to modify the website just a little bit to make it more clear. Bible's Greatest Mysteries is back. Our first new program in several months.
Yeah.
Dropped yesterday. And this features Micah Van Huss of Southwest Radio Church. He's the host of their Marginal Mysteries podcast, and he's one of the featured speakers at the Mysteries of the Bible Verse Conference that we'll be at in 1 month in Indianapolis.
Yep. Well, actually, Carmel, Indiana.
Carmel.
It's just north of Indianapolis, if you're familiar with the area. If you head north on Meridian Street, I think it runs right into Carmel pretty much. But beautiful town, beautiful area.
Yep. The Drury Plaza Hotel is where the conference will be. Carl Gallups will be there as well. But Bible's Greatest Mysteries is on the app, and the archives for all of these things will be at gilberthouse.org. I just need to make it more clear in the menu bar where you can find that. All of the archives of Sci Friday, 300 episodes. We're coming up on 300 episodes of Unraveling Revelation. When I say the OGs of podcasting, not trying to pat ourselves on the back, it's just we've been doing this for a while, and we started podcasting very early after the technology was developed.
March 5th of 2005.
Right. So here we are, our 21st year, and at least as far as we're concerned now, dealing with things like cataracts and autoimmune disorders and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We are the old geezers of podcasting. So back to, you'd started down a path, though, that we really need to explore, because there's a segment of Christianity that is looking at what Donald Trump is doing.
Oh, you mean before we started talking? Yes, yeah. I did this before we started recording.
Well, even during this program, you started talking about the Antichrist and
oh, true.
Yeah, and then I pulled back to the app, but
I did.
I think we need to talk about that.
I did, but before we do that, I just want to say those of you who are living in areas that were impacted by yesterday's tornadoes, we want you to know we love you. We're praying for you. We've got family who live in a lot of those areas. I've got a lot of friends who live in those areas. St. Louis was north part of St. Louis near Forest Park. That area was hit.
Yeah, and a little further north St. Louis.
Our daughter still lives in St. Louis. We've got a lot of friends who live there. Bloomington, Indiana, my old alma mater, IU. A friend of mine posted to Facebook that she just got out in time. Her apartment building was hit, and the parts of the roof were damaged. A lot of areas down in Kentucky and Indiana, Illinois, Missouri. Look, we know the Lord is with you, and we're just praying that if you are now outside of your home and you can't get back in, just trust in the Lord. Trust in the Lord. These things are part of, I don't believe that tornadoes would have happened in a pre-fallen world.
No, I agree with that. There are questions, people, and I like coming from opposite sides of the spectrum. On one side, you've got people saying it's climate change, and on the others, it's geoengineering. Well, no, it's just spring.
Yeah.
It is spring.
There have been tornadoes in the midsection of the United States forever, probably ever since the United States existed, so to speak, because there are cold winds that come down, cold fronts that come down from the north, warm fronts that come up from the south, and they meet about I-44.
It seems that way, doesn't it?
Yep.
So yesterday there was a supercell that, like the last two tornado outbreaks that have happened here in the United States, it seemed to really fire up right in our part of Missouri, southwest Missouri, but just to the north and east of us, and then it tracked eastward. This supercell, tracked across 600 miles.
Yeah, well, let me also say that, yes, these things have been going on for as long as humanity has been spreading across this globe. But I think right now the sun is really active. I think there are, and climate change, no, it's not, it is not humans who are doing this. It's not cows who are doing this. It is the sun primarily that drives this weather. So keep an eye on what's going on with the sun. There have been some big CMEs coming out of the sun over the last month. Yeah,
coronal mass ejections, major electrical storms basically caused by the sun, powerful bursts of energy that blast out into the solar system.
That's just it. We're living on Earth itself, so we don't have that opportunity to be in the higher levels of our atmosphere, but there are storms going on up there all the time.
Yeah. And contra what we may think, because we've got 24/7 access to news now, thanks to the internet. I mean, even starting in the 90s with cable news, CNN back in the day, and the first Gulf War, suddenly we were able to get round-the-clock news. I remember when that war took out, I had a stack of VCR tapes, and I was recording it for posterity. I have no idea where those tapes are now, because back then, internet was not even a thing.
I know.
So now, with the internet, we've got instant access, people streaming things live as they're happening. We've got the storm chasers out there. We've got weather channels on YouTube like Ryan Hall, Y'all, and Max Velocity, and then others. Those are the two that we like. But there are others out there. And, of course, your local TV station probably does a lot of news coverage as well. KY3 in Springfield is the one that we watch. And, boy, I'll tell you, Ron Hurst, meteorologist, he tracks us across the globe. We were getting lightning alerts when we were in Jerusalem back in 2018.
I know. Imagine standing on the steps to the Temple Mount and you hear this voice.
Lightning has been detected for your area. Like, oh, thank you, Ron.
Derek was just reading from the Bible. Lightning strike? What?
Yeah. Matthew 24, lightning has been detected in your area. Blue skies. Like, oh, yeah, this is the other side of the world.
Yeah, it is. But I think the weather has been... The weather has been the weather, but those of you who have been impacted by this, just hang in there. The Lord is with you, and if you want to share your needs, your specific needs on the app, you may find that there's someone else who lives in your area and can maybe help you with services. Because I know that most cities, most towns even, will have places where you can go, and oftentimes churches will open their doors.
Yep. So again, the frequency of the storms may seem to be more packed closer together just because we've got access to 24/7 news. But actually, when you look at the number of devastating storms and the damage caused by them over time, it's actually decreased over the last century rather than increasing. But of course, every time something like this pops up, again, one side saying it's climate change, the other saying no, they're using HAARP to blast the stratosphere.
Well, getting back to my comment about that's true. Getting back to my comment about the sun, this will segue us into what you asked me. Prophetically, we are told that there will be signs in the sun and the moon and in the heavens.
Yeah.
As we approach that moment when we start looking for Christ's return. Politically, there are shakeups going on that are really interesting to watch. We all know that President Trump just returned from the Middle East, and while he was there, he struck quite a number of deals with the UAE and Qatar and Saudi Arabia. He was talking to the so-called leader, so-called president of Syria, and also with Erdogan, and I have something to say about Erdogan in a minute, but when Trump returned, the big story is he struck these peace deals. And so instead of the United States standing for war and peace being in very low type and very whispered, we are now standing for peace and war. And what I think in President Trump, and again, I could be totally wrong about him, but he seems to me that he's genuine and that he really, truly does want peace. However, he is willing to go to that war side of that statement if necessary. Ask the Houthis.
Yeah. Yemen has been pounded pretty badly, and it's going to take them quite a while to rebuild. I guess their airport has reopened after the Israeli airstrike there.
They're still dancing.
But
they're little. They get their guns, and they have these little dances that look silly. You guys don't look. You're not scaring me with that.
I mean, maybe that's okay. Maybe that's impressive in your culture, but here in the West, it looks kind of silly. So if you're trying to impress us in the West, that ain't working.
No, it really isn't.
Anyway, it was interesting that they said that they would honor a ceasefire with the United States, but they're still lobbing missiles at Israel, which I can see President Trump, as regards the Houthis in Yemen, wanting to get us out of a situation there. And that situation is that with the aircraft carriers that are in the Red Sea to launch those attacks on Yemen, you've got 5,000 or 6,000 American sailors and airmen who are sitting ducks because they're big tin cans. In fact, we lost an F-18 when the Harry S. Truman had to execute a rather severe evasive maneuver to get away to avoid an incoming missile. Now, the Houthis don't have very high-tech missiles. If these were Russian or Chinese missiles, you basically, the aircraft carrier is no longer the weapon that it was during World War II.
True. In some ways, because it does take a little bit of time to turn a ship.
It does.
They can't turn on it. They're not like our friend Jack's zero-turn John Deere mower, which I totally would love to have. But, it takes a while. So, when President Trump was in the Middle East, one of the things he stated was that we, the United States, would maintain control of the base in Afghanistan.
Bagram Air Force Base.
I think that's another statement. I realize that, but he said we are going to maintain control of it, which may mean that either we've had soldiers there all along, Biden didn't withdraw everybody, or he being Trump, has already positioned our men in there, and men and women, because I realize that there are women in the military as well. But it could be that he's playing three-dimensional chess, and he, I believe, is positioning assets so that Iran feels surrounded. Yemen feels surrounded. Syria feels surrounded. Turkey feels surrounded. And I'm telling you, right now, Israel, as you've probably seen already, honey, is, what is it called? Gideon? Operation Gideon?
Gideon's Chariots.
Yeah, they are now in Gaza.
Yeah.
They started moving in what would be our overnight. And I watched the silly performative so-called hunger strikes that are taking place on college campuses. Some of them are even having die-ins, and by that I mean that they're pretending that they are...
Pretending to be dead.
I just shared a photo of that on X, and my comment was, oh, look, it's nap time at kindergarten. Because they are acting like children, like little bitty children, instead of students old enough to be in college. To stand there and look like you haven't lost access to sandwiches for months, if not years, and to say, I'm in my third day of not eating, and I'm not going to eat until they stop the blockade. Where is there a blockade? to my knowledge, Gaza isn't blockaded. Aid does get in.
Well, Israel had actually stopped allowing aid in.
Oh, when did that begin? Because I missed
several months ago.
I'm sorry, but Netanyahu just a few days ago said there is no blockade. I shared that on X.
Well, let me double check that, because
now, if I'm wrong, and you guys are welcome to say something either in the comments to this video or on our app, and I might be wrong, but I remember sharing that.
Okay, 2 days ago, Israel agreed to resume Gaza aid after a freeze of 2 months.
Oh, okay.
And the reason they froze the aid was because Hamas was stealing it and was reselling it to the people of Gaza and using that money to hire new fighters. And there was an intelligence assessment that they had managed to hire 30,000 new fighters, which, what kind of training they're getting. Okay, crawl up here and then...
I know. Now I'm laughing because it's not at you. I'm laughing at those college students because you guys are pretending to be so well informed. Okay, I'm this old woman sitting here in Southwest Missouri. Mm-hmm. Maybe I missed that there had been a blockade, but did they not notice that it was stopped?
Well,
2 days ago, you say?
The Israel has agreed to resume the aid. Now, when is that going to start up again? I'm not sure, but there are, as we've seen in video shared on social media, Gazans that were storming warehouses that are full of aid.
Yeah.
Because Hamas had been taking it and stockpiling it and then selling it to raise funds. That's how Hamas was continuing to fund its operations.
And this is why Operation Gideon Chariots is going on. Netanyahu has vowed that they are going to remove Hamas from Gaza. The people of Gaza deserve better. They really do. Mm-hmm. They have been run by a mob of terrorists for far too long.
I would call it a death cult.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It is, in fact, the book that I'm hoping to have turned in by fourth quarter of this year.
Did you sign a contract?
I did.
Oh.
I did.
Okay.
Will make that case that the spirit behind Islam generally, but Gaza particularly, is this is a continuation of the war of conquest for Canaan, and that it is an entity that is connected to the underworld and to sacrifice, specifically human sacrifice, and has been for thousands of years.
It's a continuation of a war that began at the very least in the garden, if not before.
Yeah, it is, exactly. The working title of the book is War of the Watchers, and that will be, again, if all goes well, early next year, I would imagine, between the time it takes to get it edited and then to the printer. But the Gideon's Chariots offensive has launched. This was as of Friday, yesterday. Basically, Israel is committed to just destroying Hamas. The world is like, think of the people of Gaza. Well, yeah, think of the people of Gaza. Hamas could end all this by turning over the hostages and laying down their arms.
Yeah.
But they won't do that.
No.
Because they know that world pressure, the longer this goes on, the greater the pressure builds on Israel.
And those men who are part of Hamas, they are, and also their families, they are in thrall to the fallen realm as well. And they don't know it.
Right.
They really don't know it. What we tend to forget, I tend to forget because I get involved in what's going on as well, although I don't have to report it on 5 and 10 the way Derek does. There are people who have the fallen realm, as we said a minute ago, has been at war with the Lord and his host, his army, for millennia. Millennia. And human beings have been the collateral damage of that. In many ways, the fallen realm might even say, oh, you're the cause of it. And no, we're not. No, I think pride somewhere in there started it. an entity that was not human and is not human, an entity that still exists, thought he was greater than his creator. And that pride continues today. And getting back to Donald Trump, who is an individual, he's an alpha male, so I'm sure that he is very, has a certain amount of pride, because it goes along with being an alpha male. But there are some on the left who hate him because he's just orange man bad. Mm-hmm. And there are some on the right who don't trust him because they believe he is the Antichrist.
Right. We've talked about this previously, and again, these sentiments have been expressed again on social media over the last few days because of what has gone on this week with Trump in the Middle East. He's come back to the United States with commitments from the various Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, for something like $2.5 trillion in investment in the United States. $2.5 trillion. I don't know if there are any specifics yet. I did see that one of the investments totaling in the hundreds of billions of dollars was for an aluminum plant in the southern United States. I forget which state exactly, but I don't know. Will this become reality, or is this just these guys blowing smoke? Don't know, but Trump was definitely given the royal welcome when he went into each of these states.
He was.
He was greeted at the tarmac by Mohammed bin Salman.
Who just doesn't do that?
He didn't do it for Biden. Mm-mm. When Biden visited Saudi Arabia, the governor of Mecca went to greet the plane. President Biden had to go to MBS. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, even though he's not king, that's King Salman in Saudi Arabia, King Salman doesn't really wield the power. In fact, he's hardly ever in the news at all. I'm
not sure he's even still alive.
Don't know. But Mohammed bin Salman has been moving to consolidate his grip on the kingdom for several years. He locked up a bunch of his relatives, cousins and brothers and half-brothers.
There are a lot of princes in the House of Saud.
The royal family is very, very large, and Mohammed bin Salman made it very clear that you guys are going to have to listen to me, and you're being cut off the family dole. You're going to have to actually go do something. You're going to have to work or whatever. They were locked into a hotel in Riyadh for a while until they agreed to his terms, and then he let them out.
Yeah, I kind of remember that.
Yeah,
I
this is
forgot
about
that.
3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Mohammed bin Salman is the power in Saudi Arabia. I remember Stan Dale at one of the prophecy conferences we attended. This was in Colorado Springs for Prophecy Watchers some years ago. And Stan made the case that Mohammed bin Salman, he thinks, is the Antichrist.
I remember that.
Could be.
And that's a possibility.
Yeah.
Whoever it is going to be attractive to the majority of people worldwide.
Right.
That's tough.
And that's not Donald Trump.
No.
Now, the Saudi and the Arab oil sheikhs seemed to like Donald Trump, but that's a part of the world where alpha males run things. Mm-hmm. And often the alpha male comes to power, think Saddam Hussein, Muammar Gaddafi, Bashar al-Assad, Hafez Assad, his father, by putting together a coalition of guys with guns. That's just how things are done. Back in the day, it was done with scimitars. Trump is an alpha male. A lot of our politicians are not. And rather than actually trying to do things, they just talk about doing things and hope that people don't notice the difference. Joe Biden was one of those guys.
Yeah. Obama was one of those guys. He talked a good game, but did he actually try to do so? Well, the things that he did really disrupted the Middle East. Yeah. He bowed to members of the Middle East. He bowed to the Muslim Brotherhood. the head in Egypt when he first arrived.
Was it him or was it the king of Saudi Arabia at the time?
He bowed to several of them.
Yeah, he did, which, again, as president of the United States, you just don't bow.
No, you don't.
That's not. But again, Mohammed bin Salman greeted Trump at the tarmac, waved him off when Air Force One took off. Again, that was a display that was not given to Joe Biden.
One of the bands in the Middle East was playing the YMCA song. Yes.
That's hilarious.
That is hilarious, I know. Also, there was two different times where Trump was seen off from the big meeting room with God Bless the USA. And it's like a 2.5-minute song.
Right.
And he had them standing
Yeah.
ovation for the whole song.
Right. It was a display of
Power.
And a fellow that I know you've mentioned here on this program in the past, Jesus
And the Reque Rosas.
I don't do the rolled R quite
Joe
as well.
Henry.
Yeah. There we go. That's what we call him here in the South, Joe
Yeah.
Henry. He did a body language analysis of that and of President Trump standing there, arms at his sides. He didn't put his hands in his pockets, didn't fold his arms, didn't fold his hands together. Again, that is a body language display of a guy who's confident and in command. And to do that for a couple of minutes in the presence of these guys who respond to that. Now, I know that there are some, and I think we'll need to take a break. Maybe on the other side of the break, come back and talk about the Abraham Accords and how that relates to end times prophecy.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was such a powerful statement. You've been in theater, I've been in theater.
Yeah.
You and I both performed as singers a lot. And when you get someone who is sort of not secure and hasn't had a whole lot of experience in acting or performing, the tendency is give me something to hold in my hand. I will hold my hands together so I can do this. No, standing with your arms to your side is one of the hardest things to do.
Right. Yeah. And Trump did it, looked very confident and comfortable. And clearly the leaders of the Arab oil states in the Persian Gulf region responded positively to that. Again, all of this in the context of the Abraham Accords, Trump's meeting with the nominal president of Syria, Ahmed al-Sharaa. We'll talk about that and
more.
And yes, when PID Radio continues.
In the days of old, giants walked the earth. Scripture tells how David defeated Goliath, how angels served the Creator, and how the serpent deceived God's image bearers. The prophecies foretold of a coming Savior, one that would reach across the veil and set the captives free. Featuring Derek Gilbert,
UFO True Believers, the Ancient Aliens Prophets,
Carl Gallups,
the cherubim, the living creature,
and Micah Van Huss.
The story of the giant of Kandahar.
At the Mysteries of the Bible Verse event in Carmel, Indiana, June 13th and 14th.
Welcome back to PID Radio. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert, and we just want to let you know that the allergy factor is pretty high around here, and so Derek is dealing with post-nasal drip and all the stuff that goes into.
That's probably it. I had somebody send me a note a couple of weeks ago and asking if I was okay, if I was dealing with esophageal issues because my voice has been raspy now for months. And the pollen count is very high here in the Ozarks. We've had a very long, pleasant spring. Pollen dust is everywhere.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, it's like sprinkles on elevating the Ozarks
Allegedly,
with sprinkles,
we have
to say. But it may also be related to my autoimmune issues that we are dealing with. We can talk a little bit more about that later on.
At the end of this, we'll tell you what the the deal is.
Please consider joining us in Israel. We're running a series right now at our YouTube channel, which is at Gilbert House on YouTube. Please subscribe, share, click the bell for notifications, hit that like button. Basically a preview of what you'll see when you join us in Israel, October 19th through 30th of 2025.
Yeah, in fact, you just shared a couple of videos taken in the Jordan River area. That, if you've never been to Israel and you're picturing the Jordan River as this big old Mississippi, no, it's really not. In fact, there are some areas that almost look like a dried up creek.
Yeah.
But there are parts that are beautiful, and there's flowing water, and it's an extraordinary experience if you have never been baptized and you go to Israel with us. We go to Yardenit, which is it's just set up for baptisms.
Right.
No,
right.
It's not where Jesus was baptized, but it's the same water.
Exactly. It's the wrong side of the Sea of Galilee.
Yeah.
Yardenit is south of the Sea of Galilee. We will take you on our tour to where we believe Jesus was baptized, north of the Sea of Galilee, not down near Jericho where UNESCO says it was. But in addition, we'll take you, of course, to Nazareth, to Jerusalem, the Temple Mount, the Mount of Olives, the City of David, all the locations you want to see, plus some that will not be on any other tour. We're going to go to the Shamir Dolman Field.
Hardly anybody's been to that unless they live in the area.
Yeah, and this is the one where the dolman, the Mac Daddy of dolmens in the Middle East, 50-ton capstone.
Picture Fred Flintstone's house.
That's kind of what it looks like, yeah. And the capstone, the roof, the tabletop of the dolmen weighs about as much as two fully loaded 18-wheelers.
Yeah, they must have those dinosaurs, that Fred operated. Moving those. No, seriously, you look at it, it's like, how did humans do this?
That's a really good question, and it overlooks what we believe is the Valley of the Shadow of Death. So we will take you there. You can find out more. Oh, by the way, special guest, Carl Teichrieb.
Oh, I know, and his wife Leanne. There's so much fun, and this will be their first trip to Israel, so you'll get to see Israel through their eyes as well. Derek and I have been there a few times, so we know a bit about it, but we'll also go to Shiloh.
Oh, yes.
And we'll get to see, we won't be able to touch them, but we'll get to see the red heifers.
Right, yeah. They are trying to protect them because you don't want some Yahoo up there doing something and causing a blemish on the red heifer. Go down in history, not in the way you want, but we will see them. And also we'll see the site of Dr. Scott Stripling's dig at Shiloh. He believes he's found the location where the tabernacle stood for 300 years. That is huge.
I think he's found it too.
Yeah.
I really do. It's the exact dimensions. It makes sense. It's level ground. Yeah, I think it's where it's.
Yeah. So you can find out more and reserve your spot or seats on the bus at gilberthouse.org/travel. gilberthouse.org/travel.
And by the way, on our app, you will also see access to the calendar there.
Yeah, and all of our upcoming events. We'll talk more about a couple of the other conferences we'll be speaking at the end of the program. By the way, I did check. Bagram Air Base is still under the control of the Afghan Ministry of Defense.
That's so interesting that Trump would say we're going to keep it. So how is he working that out?
Don't know, but reports that Bagram was handed over to U.S. forces are unproven. Both the U.S. and Taliban have denied the claim.
Interesting.
So, yeah, don't know what... I know Trump was really bugged that Joe Biden just handed it over, along with $80 billion worth of military hardware.
That's just it. Not only it's giving our very expensive material to the enemy, but also giving secrets to how our infrastructure inside the planes work.
Yeah.
We're going to show you exactly what sort of secret tech we're using. That's a bad idea.
Yeah. AFP, which is a French press agency, has a photo here from last August of 24, showing a parade of military hardware at Bagram Air Base, and all of this hardware is stuff that was left behind by the U.S. military. So, because we had all in agreement with getting our soldiers out of Afghanistan. It made no sense there.
Oh, yeah.
And the money that we pumped into Afghanistan to rebuild the country has just been wasted.
Oh, yeah.
But the way it was done, and the fact that we had this big, beautiful airbase, as Trump would say, at Bagram, and just turned that over as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just... Joe Biden, worst president of my lifetime.
You mentioned AFP, French press service.
Yeah.
It made me think of the story that I shared on X this morning. It's a video that shows Erdogan, who is the head of Turkey, and you might as well say he's the king of Turkey, with Macron from France, who is the president of France?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can never remember. There are presidents and prime ministers, and one's diplomatic and the other one's, actually rules the place. Anyway, Macron, who sort of tries to rule France as his own little fiefdom. Erdogan is sitting. Macron is over talking to him and reaches out to take Erdogan's hand. Erdogan won't let his hand go. Macron keeps trying to pull it out of the grip. Erdogan holds on to just one finger. And finally, Macron just pulls hard and shakes it off.
Interesting.
And Erdogan was talking the whole time.
Very interesting.
I would love to see Jesus Enrique Rosas do a body language analysis, because it looked to me like Erdogan was chewing Macron out.
Yeah. Huh.
Or at the very least, showing power.
Yeah. Istanbul right now is the site of the negotiations between Ukraine and Russia. We'll get back to Trump here and the Middle East and Abraham Accords in a minute. But one of the things that Trump had said last week is that he didn't think that the peace negotiations would really go anywhere unless Trump and Putin sit down and talk, and that they're going to try to make that happen. But in Istanbul, you've got a delegation from Ukraine, including President Volodymyr Zelensky. The Russian delegation includes neither Vladimir Putin nor his foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov.
Oh, interesting.
They sent a low-level delegation, which is a power move, basically saying, you don't have any cards to play. We'll send these guys to listen to what you have to say. But the fact is, from a Russian perspective, and please understand, we're not carrying any water for Vladimir Putin.
No.
But from a Russian perspective, they can accomplish whatever they want, their strategic objectives in Ukraine, without giving up anything.
I know. Well, Erdogan has been trying to position himself as the broker of peace.
Yeah.
Ever since the war started in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
There is a long history of antagonism between we'll just say that the leader of Turkey, going back to the Ottoman Empire,
right,
and Russia. There
is that, yeah. And they had that incident where the Turkish Air Force shot down a Russian jet about 4 years ago. On the other hand, Turkey depends quite heavily on Russian natural gas for energy.
It does, doesn't it?
And because it controls the Bosporus, the straits through which Russian fleet would need to get from the Black Sea at Sevastopol out to the Mediterranean, they kind of have to work together. What I read about the first day of discussions, which was Thursday, between Ukraine and Russia, was that Russia said, okay, you're going to have to give up the 4 regions in which we've got our troops. That's it. Basically meaning the Donbass and Crimea, because there are 3 regions in the Donbass. And Ukraine says that's not acceptable. So the Russian delegation reportedly now got up, said, okay, when we come back tomorrow, it'll be 5.
That's what you do.
Yeah, except that RT, Russia Today, later reported that the delegation said, no, we didn't say 5, we said 8.
Oh, that's interesting.
So, but this is what Trump told Zelensky in that infamous Oval Office meeting months ago. You don't have any cards. And he's right. I mean, as much as the Western media has tried to sugarcoat things, that if we just send a little more aid, another couple billion, another 20, 50, 150, if we just send our soldiers to Ukraine, they'll win the war. And if we don't, then Russia will roll over all of Europe. Now go, wait a minute, which is it? Is Russia so weak that Ukraine can beat them if we just send them another 10 billion? Or is Russia so strong they'll run over all of Europe? You can't have it both ways.
I know. We're seeing the Cold War starting up again, except it wants to be a hot war this time.
They want it to be a hot war. Russia, meanwhile, contrary to what we've been told here in the West, from what I'm reading from sources elsewhere in the world that are not beholden to the neocons here in the United States, is that Russia has managed to ramp up its industrial production, that the sanctions that have been slapped on Russia haven't really affected the economy that much. The Chinese are helping out with Russia in that regard. North Korea is also helping out. But the head of NATO, Mark Rutte, former prime minister of, is it Denmark or the Netherlands? Netherlands, maybe. I'll have to look that up. Anyway, Rutte said that Russia produces more ammunition in a month than all of NATO combined in a year. So now that may just be his way of saying we need to spend a lot more money on ammunition. But the fact is that the United States, with 150 millimeter artillery shells, which is the most common size, we've depleted our resources so much, our stockpiles, sending them to Ukraine, that I've read it will take us 3 years to restock our own inventory, whereas Russia just keeps cranking them out.
And isn't there there's a component into ammunition and into artillery shells that didn't it come from either Ukraine or Russia? I remember when the war first started that there was a concern that it would be difficult for the U.S. to manufacture that.
Right.
If we didn't have the one secret component. And I can't remember what it is. I don't think it's a rare earth mineral, but it's something like that.
Well, the other aspect, again, is that we've sent so much of our manufacturing to China and other parts of the world that here in the United States, we don't have the machine shops and the factories to start turning out that kind of ammunition quickly anymore. We need to rebuild our industrial base. And this is one of the things that Trump's trying to do with his tariffs, is to bring manufacturing back to the United States. I can tell you when I was 10 years ago, between 2011 and 2015, when I was in outside sales in southern Illinois, not a big industrial region, but you do have a lot of manufacturing that goes on for the agriculture industry, for coal mining, and for oil. A lot of oil fields in southern Illinois. It's not the high-producing fields like you've got in Texas and
right.
But
there are a lot of them.
But there are a lot of them, and they were desperate for guys who knew how to machine metal, and guys who knew how to weld. Boy, I'll tell you, if you're looking for a career right now, and you're a kid, if you got children or grandchildren, consider sending them into the trades. I mean, HVAC, welding, machining,
plumbing.
rather than college, because college, not to rabbit trail too far, way too expensive. They'll be paying it off for years. Financially, they'll be better off if they can learn a trade.
Yep.
But the United States needs people who can do these things, because we've, for a couple of generations now, been funneling our kids into college and getting degrees in things that will not help them make a living, and certainly not things that will help us as a nation. So,
well, I think part of that is that if you go to college now, many of the degrees aren't going to lead you into a job, but also you are programmed and you are brainwashed by many of the professors in college. Most college campuses are very left-leaning. Yeah,
it was funny because back in the 80s, I remember coming home one weekend for a visit, and my dad said, "They're brainwashing you." And I'm like, "No." And we're looking back 40 years now down the road. It's like, yeah. And that was back in the 80s.
Well, exactly. So, I was a much older student, so I came in with my own political leanings, and they weren't going to move me. The very first counseling session I had at IU said, okay, well, you're going to need to take this women's class. You know, all incoming female freshmen, they all have to take this women's course. And I said, no. Well, no, you need to take that. I said, no, I don't need to take that. I read the prerequisites. I'm not taking that class.
Mm-hmm.
But it was going to be a very left-leaning, trying to convince you that, you know, and wash your brain, wash that Christianity right out of there.
Yeah, with a really stiff bristle brush.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Well, I hear the dogs.
Yep.
Let me go let them out. I'm going to take this off.
Tap the bottom, the little button on the bottom.
Okay.
There we go. Now you're muted.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, back to Donald Trump and the Abraham Accords. Again, this was the backdrop for his visit to the Middle East. And he did not visit Israel, which led to some reports that there was a rift that had developed between Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu. Spokesman for Netanyahu says that's fake news. That's not the case. And this past week on Avi Lipkin's Middle East Update, Avi Lipkin, who is the father of Aaron Lipkin, whose tour company is the one that we use to go to Israel. Avi is involved in politics there. He's still working to get his Judeo-Christian Bible bloc party enough traction to start getting them some seats in the Knesset, because he sees that conservative Christians, evangelical Christians, are really Israel's only friend in the world. Avi said that just from a political standpoint, there is no way, if you're going to try to get anything done in the Middle East, if you're going to visit the Arab leaders in the Middle East, you do not go and bring up Israel as part of that, as part of the conversation. The best you can hope for, the best the Israelis hope for in that circumstance is what Avi called benign neglect. Pretend Israel is not on the table, and then you can get what you want out of the Arabs, and very quietly behind the scenes. And you'll need to tap the bottom of your little microphone there. Yeah. And you're back. That the Saudis and the UAE have been dealing with Israel for a long time. They just don't make it public. It's like Mohammed bin Salman reportedly said a couple of years ago, he doesn't care about Palestinian Arabs. He doesn't care. But because the people in his kingdom care, he's got to at least publicly make it appear as though he cares. So that's why he's talking about a two-state solution.
Well, also, when he announced a few years ago that very modern connected city that he wanted, Neom, yes, that he was negotiating with Israel to partner in that, and I'm not really sure why he felt he needed to negotiate with Israel on that, because does Israel have a border on Saudi Arabia? They don't, do they?
Looking at the map now, it's borders on Jordan, but
and also on Yemen, but I don't think.
Well, Saudi Arabia on the south borders on Yemen, but it comes very close to in the Gulf of Aqaba.
Oh, okay.
So the Saudi territory is borders on the Gulf of Aqaba there, almost all the way up to the port of Eilat and Aqaba on the Jordan side of that border. Yeah. So it would be very close. I think there was some discussion that perhaps they could set up an alternative to the Suez Canal from the Gulf of Aqaba up to Ashkelon,
gotcha.
or perhaps Gaza. But I don't think that's going to go anywhere. That's just a huge expense. And But anyway, so the fact that Trump did not meet with Netanyahu on this trip is not indicative of anything other than just recognizing you can't politically include Netanyahu and then go see MBS and then the Sheikh of the UAE. And
it's the reason that when we go to Israel this October, we will not have an extension into Jordan.
Right now, yeah.
Right now, exactly. But Jordan has been backing up Israel as far as any
Correct.
military action from Iran. But if it makes it difficult to get a visa into Jordan when you're coming from Israel, and the other way around.
Right, yeah. So just from a security standpoint, this year, this will not be the case. Now, I do see that some of the tours going into Israel next spring will include the Jordan extension. It's just on our tour this fall, that will not be part of the deal.
Right.
Anyway, she's squeaking at something going on over there. Grace and Glory are outside right now, and I'm pretty sure that there are some meadow mice out there, voles, that are getting active. They've been chasing something along the...
I'm going to mute this again and go see what's going on.
Yeah, they've been chasing something along the foundation out there, and I think that's what's going on. Anyway, how does this relate to the Abraham Accords, and are the Abraham Accords the strong covenant with many mentioned in Daniel chapter 9? And I think this is one of the reasons that whenever anyone starts talking about peace in the Middle East, you start getting talk of the Antichrist.
I know, you're really tough.
First of all, Donald Trump is too divisive a figure to be the Antichrist. This future global leader will be seen as wonderful by everybody to the point where he actually commands worship. That ain't Donald Trump. I'm sorry. I know there are some Christians say, well, look, he's such an egotist. Yeah, I suppose you're right. But Donald Trump's ego is driving him to do things that previous presidents have said could not be done. Even, in fact, there was a story this week in Axios, which is a left-wing news site, citing former officials in the Biden administration who wanted to remain anonymous because it's kind of embarrassing for them to admit, I suppose, that Trump is doing things that they thought were impossible. Yes. Not things that they didn't think he could do. These are things they thought nobody could do because it breaks all the rules. Trump is rewriting reality on the ground in the Middle East.
I think one of the reasons for that is he's not a politician so much as he's a businessman.
He's a businessman. He's used to making deals okay, let's throw out an offer here. Hey, we'll take over Gaza. Did Trump really want to take over Gaza? I don't think so. But it shook everybody up in the region to the point it was like suddenly Egypt and Jordan came together and said, okay, let's put together our own proposal and maybe we can work from there.
Oh yeah, let me just warn people who are, especially on X, because I love X. I love X. You can say and do whatever you want to within reason on there because you don't want to harm anybody else or, claim you're going to try to harm anybody else, unlike some Comey.
Yeah.
Anyway, there are videos on X and probably elsewhere that are actually AI generated, and they purport to show Trump receiving adoration as an incoming king.
Yeah.
Dressed in Middle Eastern garb and being feted and riding on camels and doing things like that. No, none of that happened.
Right. Fake news.
Fake news.
Images.
He was treated very well.
He was. So the Abraham Accords, which, by the way, came up in the context of his meeting with Ahmed al-Sharaa, he is being called by the media the president of Syria. This is the first, and Trump meeting with him, a meeting that was brokered by Mohammed bin Salman, is the first time in 25 years that an American president has met with a leader of Syria. He's the president of Syria in name only.
I agree.
The Druze regions in the south of Syria do not acknowledge his authority. And there have been armed conflicts between the forces of HTS, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, which is...
Ooh, I'm impressed.
Yeah, HTS, that's Al-Qaeda in suits, which is backed by Turkey. Mm-hmm. They have been attacking Druze areas south of Damascus. The Israeli Defense Forces have been defending those areas. Even though al-Sharaa says he wants to normalize relations with Israel, they've been attacking the Druze, and the Druze occupy the region. They straddle the border between Israel and Syria. Some of them are on the Golan Heights, the Israeli side, others on the Syrian side. And the Druze have been begging Netanyahu to protect them, and the Israeli military has established a buffer zone inside Syria. Trump told al-Sharaa he wants Syria to be part of the Abraham Accords, but a condition of this would be normalizing relations with Israel, kicking out the terrorists, which
means kicking out the head of Syria.
Yeah, HTS basically is.
They're a terrorist organization.
Within the last couple of months, they've been going after the Alawites, which is an offshoot of Shia Islam. HTS is Sunni Muslim. Been
going in and trimming, cutting their beards.
Well, with the Druze, they've been cutting their beards.
Oh, is it the Druze? I thought it was the Alawites.
And shaving off their mustaches.
Yes.
That's the thing. It's the mustache.
It's embarrassing them.
It's humiliation.
Yes.
But they've been going into Alawite communities and slaughtering them.
Oh my gosh.
Killing thousands of Alawites and some of the Christians who live in a region around the city of Homs in northwestern Syria.
Yep.
So
taking women by force, things like that.
Right. So while
Oh, shh.
neighbor across the road's mowing the lawn.
I know. You're
Thanks
doing a
for
good job.
warning us, Glory.
Thank you. Hey, thank you. Good.
So while he's putting on a suit and looking all statesmanlike, the fact is that his armed forces have been going after the Alawites, Christians, and Druze. Trump said, all right, but you're going to have to stop that. He did promise to lift sanctions against Syria, which would... the irony here is that his political opponents here in the U.S. are criticizing Trump for lifting sanctions, even though the sanctions against Syria had been imposed on the guy that HTS ran out of Damascus, Bashar al-Assad.
Exactly.
So you got a new group in there. You got rid of the guy you were sanctioning, but you want to keep the sanctions on now because it's Trump who wants to lift the sanctions. The Kurds, meanwhile, in the eastern part of Syria, signed a deal with HTS saying, okay, we'll acknowledge you as the government, which is kind of unifying eastern and western Syria, and the PKK, which is the armed Kurdish group in Turkey, which had been kind of bottled up into northern Iraq lately. They have agreed to disband and lay down their arms.
Well, that's really interesting.
Yeah, this was just announced this past week.
If Turkey's been financing HTS,
right,
then why would the PKK put down their arms?
Their leader, who his name is Öcalan, who's been in jail since the 90s. He's in his 70s now. He basically said, look, the time has come to just work through a political solution.
Isn't that interesting? It's as if there's... I will say this again. I do not believe, Derek does not believe, that Donald Trump is a candidate for the man of sin.
No.
He's just not. This individual has yet to appear, I think.
Right, I agree. Just because it is a peace deal or a peace appears to be coming, or at least nearer in the Middle East, doesn't mean that the guy who seems to be rearranging the chessboard, Donald Trump, is the man of sin. For one thing, Daniel 9, verse 27, doesn't really make it clear that it's a peace deal with Israel. It just says, and he shall make a strong covenant with many for 1 week, or for 1/7.
Yeah.
7-year period.
For a 7-year period.
Strong covenant with many.
He essentially stops these sacrifices halfway through, which is why it's been taught for probably hundreds of years that means there would be a third temple. Ergo, the sacrifices are happening. But we don't know that. The sacrifices could take place elsewhere. They could take place at Joshua's altar.
Possibly.
Or in a tabernacle at Shiloh.
In a tabernacle, right, yeah. And that is a thing. In fact, I talked about that in my podcast interview with Adam Eliyahu Berkowitz a few weeks ago, who's got a new book about the red heifers.
Oh, yeah.
Adam is, he lives on the Golan Heights. We hope we can meet with him and see him.
I really want to meet him.
Yeah, when we're there in October.
He's with Israel 365?
Israel365news.com. He said that, once they decide it's ready to go, they could have everything together in about 4 hours.
Wow.
They don't need a temple for the sacrifice. They could start doing it within about 4 hours.
Right. They need a Holy of Holies.
Yes, but again, that as you say, that could be at a tabernacle because it was at Shiloh for several hundred years. It was at Mount Ebal before that.
Was it in Gibeon?
It was in Gibeon.
Yeah.
Yeah, north of Jerusalem during the time of David until the temple was built. But again, this strong covenant with many, it doesn't say a peace treaty with Israel.
Right.
It doesn't even say a peace treaty around Israel.
No.
A strong covenant with many. That is an interpretation that is wide open. So let's calm down when it comes to saying Abraham Accords, it's a peace treaty. Trump's the Antichrist. He's too divisive. That's not what Daniel 9 says. Bottom line is he's trying to do something. And the fact is that, as I started to say earlier, Biden administration officials are, the words used by Axios, in awe of what Trump has done. Their words, not mine. In awe of what Trump has done.
I will say this, that it's possible that the Lord, well, we know whatever is going on, the Lord is allowing it. He is allowing the fallen realms to set the chessboard and using the United States to do it. And he's not going to be in office for a long time.
No.
This is his second term. He will be done. So in 2028, we will have another presidential election. It may well be J.D. Vance who wins.
Vance or Marco Rubio.
It may be someone else.
Yeah.
But whoever it is, that head of the United States will likely be building further upon what's going on now, or tearing it down.
Or tearing it down. If a Democrat manages to get in, they could start reversing all of this. We will see. The bottom line is, and we said this back in 2016 when Trump got elected the first time, the best we can hope for, and what we are thankful for, is that we've got a president who's giving us a window of opportunity to proclaim our faith openly without interference from the federal government, which we did not have under Joe Biden when people were being arrested and investigated by the FBI for praying outside of certain types of clinics. When social media was pressuring voices to shut down certain types of discussion that didn't fit the official narrative about various and sundry things. This is no longer the case under President Trump. How long will this last? Don't know. Maybe in 2029 things shift back to the way they were. So while we have the opportunity, let us share the hope that we have in Jesus Christ with joy, with gentleness, and with respect, because we don't know how much longer we've got to do so openly without interference from the government.
Amen.
There are things that, and I know that there are people who are just so polarized on Trump that if you say anything positive about what he's accomplished, it's only because you're a
whatever.
Yeah, we're sold out. No. There are a lot of things about Donald Trump that are imperfect. Mm-hmm. Frankly, I wish he had not created a White House office of faith, and certainly the person that he chose to run it is a very polarizing character for Christians and non-Christians alike. We did not elect a theologian in chief, but he at least is allowing us the freedom to speak as we are doing today without interference from the government.
Amen. And I know that Elon Musk also is very polarizing.
Yeah.
But again, Elon Musk,
a technocrat.
he bought Twitter, turned it into X, and X is now a place where you can have these discussions.
Right.
And you don't get shut down.
We don't see Elon Musk as the savior either.
No, not at all.
He is hilarious, but he is morally, he is not the kind of guy you want your sons to grow up to be like.
But pray for his salvation. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
It would. Because with the clout that he's got, if he could influence people for the gospel of Jesus Christ, that would be a powerful thing.
Amen.
So no, we don't put our faith in any man or woman.
My faith is in Christ alone.
Christ alone. And if we support Trump, it's only insofar as he is getting the federal government off the backs of Christians, unlike the Biden administration that literally sued the Little Sisters of the Poor.
Oh, I know.
Literally.
And unlike over in the UK, the Starmer administration that is arresting people for liking things on,
on social media. Yeah. So we've got a lot going on in this world. It just, the speed at which things are happening is breathtaking anymore. And we are looking at the approaching end of the age.
We are.
Come quickly, Lord.
Amen for that. And seize the day, because not one of us knows when our final breath will be. It could be today. It could be tomorrow.
Yep.
It could be 10 years hence. Whenever it is, that's your last opportunity to share the gospel. And so pray for your friends, pray for your family. When the Lord brings someone into your life, pray for that person. And we pray for all of you, as I know that you guys have been praying for us. And that's going to segue into, we promised earlier that we would give you a little bit, Glory's going over and trying to get Grace to play, give you a little bit of an insight into the tentative diagnosis that Derek has received.
Yeah, it's CIDP, which stands for chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy, which basically means my immune system is attacking the nerves in my extremities.
There are a lot of diseases that include that. MS is demyelinating disease, but a different cause.
Right.
It's I don't know that they really know. They being
Guillain-Barré.
Exactly. I'm not sure it's really known why in this diagnosis of CIDP why this occurs, but the immune system has gone bananas and is attacking it. Attacking itself, the body. Frankly, I think it's a picture of what goes on in some churches. I hate to say that. But the myelin is the insulation on your nerves. So that when that's removed, the nerves don't work correctly.
Right. So my feet basically hang from my ankles at this point. I've lost neuromuscular control over my lower legs, basically below my ankles.
Yeah.
So when I walk, my feet just kind of hang there like scuba flippers. So I've got braces when we are out and about that lift up the fronts of my shoes.
They're out there going after the meadow mice again.
Yeah, keep me from tripping over my feet. Now, the standard protocol for this is to take powerful corticosteroids, which would suppress my immune system, and then...
And bankrupt us.
Because the other part of that is the intravenous immunoglobulin, which is a very expensive treatment, about $8,000 or $9,000 per. And from what I've read, it wipes out the patients for about 2, 3, 4 days at a time. It's like dialysis.
Right.
So that's, if that were the only treatment, okay, we'd figure out a way to get around that, even if it meant,
We would put the house in hock, whatever it would take, because when I say it would bankrupt us, I'm merely saying it's expensive.
Yeah.
We trust in the Lord to provide. If that's the direction that it has to go,
right,
then the Lord will provide that.
Yep. But wanting to avoid the long-term corticosteroids,
I'm not a fan of those.
Suppressing immune system forever doesn't seem like a good long-term solution.
No, there are a lot of downsides
to
heavy corticosteroids.
Right. So what we've been doing, and what I've been doing for the last month and a half or so, and when my primary care physician said, well, here's the recommended course of treatment. You can't get in to see the neurologist until December, but if you go to the emergency room and tell them this is, like, no, we won't be doing that. Taking a course of supplements that are intended to basically make me healthier.
Right.
Lots of vitamins, lots of, A, the B vitamins,
right.
C, D,
You're also
E,
on a
zinc,
very, very low dose protocol of a steroid that it's an off-label use, but we won't go into what it is. But it is something Derek is trying, and if it works for Derek, we will absolutely share it with you.
Right,
but that along with
testosterone.
Testosterone, yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of funny because my primary care physician's been wanting me to go on testosterone for a while, even before this happened, because the numbers, I get blood work every 6 months to check my thyroid levels. I've got hypothyroidism, which is low thyroid, and I've been on thyroid supplement for, 30 years. So he had recommended this, and I thought, no, look, maybe there's a reason that a guy at the age of 60 shouldn't be at the testosterone level of a guy at age 35. But within the last 5 years or so, there's been new research and some good research. I mean, we're talking peer-reviewed research showing that testosterone plays a key role in the regrowth of myelin. So adding the testosterone in addition to this very low dose of this other drug, this off-label drug, which doesn't mean it's illegal. It's a generic. It's used for something else.
Yeah, we can go ahead and
normally.
tell you. It's the generic of naltrexone.
Yeah, naltrexone.
Naltrexone. Yeah, and some of you are probably familiar with it, but yeah, it has shown a lot of promise.
Yeah.
In immunoregulation.
Yeah.
It's telling your immune system, okay, chill.
Yeah. It's resetting the thermostat instead of just suppressing the immune system altogether.
Switching it off, pretty much.
It basically modulates it. And it's not widely used here in the U.S. especially because it is a generic, like say, ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine, the big pharmaceutical companies don't stand to gain anything by researching it and then recommending it because they can't patent it.
Right.
But the dose is like 1/10 of the normal dose. Normally, it's used to treat people with alcohol or opioid addictions. But at very low doses, it shows real promise. And again, there's some good research out there, and there's a website dedicated to promoting this research, peer-reviewed research studies into using it for autoimmune disorders. So things like multiple sclerosis, CIDP, Hashimoto's, Sjogren's, things like that, and a lot of other diseases as well. So we will see. It's very early days. I've only been on it for a couple of days, and they're titrating me up. You don't start right in at the dose that I'll be at in about 3 weeks. So I can't say for sure that I've noticed anything. I do notice more tingling in my toes the last couple of days.
Which is promising.
But this may also be the result of the other supplements I've been taking already for the last couple of months.
Yeah, so. I've told you this before, sweetie, that as a scientist, this approach isn't telling you at all what is working.
We're throwing everything at the...
Exactly. Something in there might be working, but you don't know what it is. But as far as nutrition, you can't go wrong.
No, and the nutrition, and again, that's a large part of what the supplements are doing is just adding things that are good for you in there. So altogether, hoping that this will have a positive effect without the long-term side effects. I mean, the body, men, we produce testosterone anyway in a certain level. So by boosting it a little bit, hopefully two things there. Number one, the myelin, the insulation around my nerves will regrow, but will also help then with the muscles that have atrophied in my feet, my ankles, my shins, which will need to redevelop so that I can get back to walking normally. So that's our goal. It's certainly a lot cheaper than going the other route.
By the way, we have some wonderful friends that gifted us a reclining stepper. So Derek is able to sit and actually exercise his legs.
Use it as a recumbent bike, and that'll help with my upper thigh muscles, which are doing all the work. And them and my calf muscles. My calf muscles actually have had to step up because they're compensating for the lack of muscles below the ankle.
But the Lord is still in control of all of this, and so Derek and I were just grateful for His provision.
Amen.
That's it. No matter what happens.
And we thank you for your support. There have been some very, very gracious donations that have come in recently.
Yeah, it's really helped. So thank you very much for that.
We do appreciate that. Yeah, we got priced out of the healthcare market back in 2015 by the Affordable Care Act, which again is that's probably the biggest example of any bill passed by Congress doing exactly the opposite of the title. Yeah,
I'm an old woman, so I'm on Medicare, but Derek hasn't quite gotten that to that
didn't
level
kick
yet.
the can quite far enough down that road. Next month we'll be in Indianapolis or Carmel, Indiana, as we told you. In fact, during the break, you heard the promo for that. In July, we'll be in the Dayton, Ohio area, Brookville, Ohio, for the Go Therefore conference.
So looking forward to that.
Yep.
Love that church.
Yep, Harvest Revival Center, Pastor Neil Peterson offering up his facility once again. It is a great place for a conference. We've got a massive screen behind, so the presentation slides you can read in the back row.
I know, it's so good.
So I'll be showing some video again, I think.
And I probably won't have any slides at all. I don't usually do.
The speakers list is wonderful. Carl Gallups will be there, Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, Vicki Joy Anderson, Kenny C., Tom Dunn, and Joe Horn will be there with us.
I know, it's just going to be the best lineup. And in August, we'll be back in Missouri, in Springfield, for And Hear the Watchman.
Yes, the Remnant Rising Conference. Let us welcome you to the Ozarks. It's at the Oasis Hotel and Convention Center in Springfield. That's on the north side of Springfield, close enough to the Springfield-Branson National Airport that you can fly in and then take a hotel shuttle. Facility is great for events like this. And there's a lot to do in the Springfield and Branson areas. If you've not been to the Wonders of Wildlife Aquarium.
Oh, wow.
It has been voted the best in the country 3 years running. And I can vouch. I've been there a couple of times. It's the tickets are a little expensive, but believe me, it is worth it. It is absolutely stunning.
Yeah, bring your family. And while you're here, if you want to, you can stay an extra day or two and go down to Branson.
Right. Plenty to do in Branson, and it's all family friendly. Mm-hmm. That's the thing that we love about it. Here in in Missouri, I remember about 20 years ago, there was a vote to allow gambling on land. They wanted to put casinos on land, and one of the reasons is they wanted to get casinos into the Branson area.
And Missouri voters? Exactly.
Right. Yeah. It's like, look, it's a family-friendly area. We don't want that. So, yeah, that August 22nd through 24th, and you can find out more at hearthewatchmen.com.
Is Carl going to be at that one too?
No. No.
Okay.
That one is basically a lot of the Skywatch TV folks. Joe Horn, Donna Howell, Nita Horn.
Because we just drive up there.
Right.
By the way, if you want to hear Carl, if you want to go to the one in the conference in Brookville, Ohio, because Carl Gallups has been seeing some stuff in the Word. Mm-hmm. The stuff he's been teaching, it is so exciting.
Or the Mysteries of the Bible Verse Conference, because he'll be there in Indianapolis too.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, Carmel. So
that's why I thought he might be in Springfield. It's like Carl's been following us around.
he's been everywhere,
man.
Has. So we again, you can find all that information at our website, gilberthouse.org. Look for the calendar link in the menu bar, or go to our app, because all of the upcoming events are listed there.
And by the way, those of you who've been praying for my eyes to get better, they are getting better. I see the specialist in Springfield again a week from yesterday, on the 30th. Is that a week from yesterday, or is that 2 weeks? I can't remember.
Let's see. Yesterday was the 16th. It'd be 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Okay, 2 weeks from, all right. So 2 weeks, but getting close. And he is going to attempt to refract my eyes once again. I've been on a very, very, very low dose steroid for my eyes, and it's to help slow down the Sjogren's so that it'll stop attacking my oil glands in my eyelids. But they are getting better, and because of that, I've started in rereading Book 8. Look, when it's been a while, a couple of years since you wrote a book, you kind of forget what's in the book.
Yeah.
So even though Book 9 is about half written, I still needed to remember, where did I leave off with this, this, and this? And what did I promise was going to happen? So rereading that, and because Derek was kind enough to buy me a new MacBook Air, mm-hmm. which is light as a feather. It is so light. And as I get older, I find that my hands don't like having to lift heavy things, so having a light machine is so nice. So I'm looking forward to getting back to writing, and that's because you guys have been praying, because the Lord is answering those prayers, so thank you.
Yes. Well, Gilbert House Fellowship tomorrow morning, back into our Bible study, and we hope you join us for that. And until next time, I'm Derek Gilbert. I'm Sharon Gilbert. And for Grace and Glory, who are trying to figure out how to get at those meadow mice, the voles. Bye-bye, everybody. PID Radio is produced by Gilbert House and released under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License. Follow us online, Twitter @PID Radio, or the PID Radio page at Facebook. Join us each week for our online Bible study, the Gilbert House Fellowship, online at gilberthouse.org.